Welcome to the Deep Dive. Okay, put down the headlines, because today we are grappling with a date that might just define the next generation. January 3, 2026.
That was the day the U.S. military operation in Venezuela and the capture of President Nicolas Maduro.
Exactly, and the raid, the fallout, that's all been covered. But our sources, they're moving past that. They're tackling this core urgent question.
Is this the Poland moment of 1939?
Is this the definitive collapse of the entire post-1945 rules-based order? And, it's not hyperbole.
No, it's a necessary comparison. What's fascinating is how fast the framework for understanding this stuff just shifted. I mean, for decades, every intervention, Panama 89, Grenada 83, they were controversial, sure.
Of course.
But they always had this rhetorical commitment to democracy or human rights. Venezuela 2026, according to the sources, seems qualitatively different. It seems to have just shed that pretense entirely.
And the evidence for that comes from the president's own words. I mean, when was the last time a U.S. president openly announced plunder as policy?
You just don't hear it.
We have the quotes right here in the preliminary assessment. The administration said they were going to run the country, that the U.S. would get reimbursement, and they would be taking tremendous wealth from the ground.
That phraseology is the entire inflection point. It just normalizes resource extraction as an official foreign policy goal. We're moving from democracy promotion to open self-interest.
And that changes the global equation instantly.
Right.
Okay, let's unpack that. Because every previous intervention, even the really cynical ones, they still paid lip service to self-governance. The words were there. So what makes Venezuela so distinct?
It's really three things. First, just the explicit language about resource extraction. The president said, and I'm quoting, "We're going to be taking a tremendous amount of wealth from the ground." It goes also to the United States of America in the form of reimbursement.
Reimbursement for what? For the cost of the invasion. It sounds like they're admitting the operation is for profit.
That's exactly how the sources are interpreting it. And second, you have what is, frankly, a colonial declaration.
Not a transition team.
No, they said, we're going to run the country until such time as we can do a safe, proper, and judicious transition. We're there now, but we're going to stay. The sources just note this is pure occupational language.
Indefinite control.
Indefinite control. And that leads to this term the sources have coined, the Monroe Doctrine.
Which sounds like a very deliberate contrast to the Monroe Doctrine.
It is. Yeah. The administration explicitly said they superseded the Monroe Doctrine by a lot. And the old doctrine, for all its flaws, was about preventing external interference.
European interference, yeah.
This Monroe Doctrine, though, is about aligning U.S. policy with a sphere of influence model, the kind of regional hegemony that, the sources connect directly to Putin's model for Russia.
That's a huge assertion, justifying U.S. regional control by linking it to Moscow's doctrine.
Because it rejects the whole foundation of the post-1945 order, the idea that borders are inviolable. When the U.S. says it'll unilaterally run a country and take its resources, it's saying the rules don't matter, only power matters.
And then it just escalates.
Yeah.
It wasn't treated as a one-off action. Foreign policy suddenly became, as the source puts it, an acquisition strategy.
A shopping list.
A shopping list. Threats against Colombia, Cuba, Mexico, and then that Katie Miller post of soon over a map of Greenland.
It's a proof of concept. It showed this can be done quickly without much pushback.
Yep.
And the president was explicit about the business side of it.
The cronyism?
We're going to have our very large United States oil companies go in, spend billions, and start making money for the country. The U.S. gets paid in oil, and the cronies get contracts.
And that open transactionalism, that brings us back to the most alarming parallel. Poland, 1939. Why Poland? Why not, say, the Anschluss in Austria in 1938?
The distinction is critical. The Anschluss had a pretext ethnic reunification. Hitler was testing the limits. The world sort of shrugged.
Right.
Poland was different. It was a naked resource grab. It was the end of all pretense, and that's what triggered a world war because it meant all the old rules were gone.
So the argument is that the administration's language here, it's a perfect fit for the Poland pattern. The source uses the term Lebensraum language. That's an incredibly heavy, chilling comparison.
They justify it by focusing on the stated intent. Lebensraum, or living space, was the Nazi justification for seizing territory and resources to benefit Germany, not for liberation, not for security.
For acquisition.
For acquisition. And when you hear a U.S. president promise tremendous wealth and reimbursement and to run the country, It's hard not to see the parallel. The goal shifted from liberation to acquisition.
Which fundamentally challenges the entire structure built since World War II.
Exactly. The UN Charter, the primacy of sovereignty, the whole system was designed to stop great powers from invading to take resources. So what happens when the primary guarantor of that order decides the rules don't apply to itself?
The guarantor becomes the violator.
And the system loses its foundation. The legal response was, immediate.
Swift and clear.
Legal scholars like Una Hathaway, Mary Ellen O'Connell, they're all saying it has no plausible justification under the UN Charter. It's an international armed conflict. And that's before you even get to the violation of US constitutional war powers.
Right, no congressional authorization. But this didn't happen in a vacuum, and this is where you have to zoom out. The sources make a powerful case that Venezuela is part of a broader strategy of domestic consolidation.
This is so crucial. You can't see this as just a standalone military action. It's more like a graduation ceremony for domestic erosion. It only happens after a year of systematic institutional capture.
You're talking about things like Schedule F.
Exactly. Schedule F sounds so arcane, but you need to understand it. It's the mechanism that let the administration reclassify tens of thousands of career civil servants,
stripping them of job protections. So you can replace professional bureaucrats with political loyalists.
Precisely. You see it at the DOJ and FBI with appointees like Pam Bondi and Kash Patel. You have the 6-3 Supreme Court as a backstop. In that context, Venezuela is a data point. It proves the captured system now feels confident enough to act externally.
And we have to talk about the timing. January 3rd, that was the statutory deadline for the DOJ to explain redactions in the Epstein files.
And we know files were deleted, reports of a Trump-Epstein photo gone. The operation just floods the zone, completely obscuring that story.
It's a pattern, controlled chaos. I think the source noted 89 Truth Social posts at 1 a.m. the night after the invasion.
That's not random. The chaos is a feature, not a bug. It generates distraction, and while everyone is distracted, consolidation just keeps proceeding.
But the domestic function goes even deeper. The sources call it the military purge mechanism. And this is the insight most of the coverage totally missed. How does a foreign invasion act as a domestic loyalty test?
It's because the support the troops mandate creates a binary choice for officers. These people are sworn to uphold the Constitution, not just obey the president. So when an order comes down to invade a country without Congress, they're forced into two columns.
Column A and column B.
Column A are the loyalists. They say, mission accomplished, I support the commander-in-chief. Their oath is to the president. Column B, the constitutionalists, they have to ask, wait, is this legal?
And the moment they ask, they've identified themselves.
They self-identify for removal. It's an engineered purge, and that sets an incredibly dangerous domestic precedent. If the military will do this abroad without Congress, it proves the chain of command is now vetted and compliant enough for domestic deployment.
So the source is asking, was this, in part, a training exercise for future domestic actions?
It absolutely raises that question. You identify and remove resistance while rewarding absolute loyalty. It paves the way for using military force for internal political goals.
Okay, let's pivot to the political opposition.
Yeah.
The sheer strategic genius of what the source calls the wedge trap. Why did real opposition to this just fail to materialize?
The trap is perfectly structured because Maduro was genuinely terrible, a narco-terrorist who stole elections. So if you oppose the operation, the administration immediately paints you as defending a narco-terrorist dictator.
And as opposing the troops, an impossible position for a politician.
Exactly. And the source offers the only way out, which is to say Maduro was terrible and this operation violates international law. Both things can be true. Opposing the method doesn't mean defending the target.
But that's the intellectually honest position. It's not what happened politically.
No. And this is where historian Tad Stoermer's analysis is just devastating. He calls it the absorption mechanism. He notes that congressional Democrats issued statements, demanded explanations, praised the troops, but there was no actual obstruction.
Right. Commentary has never resisted anything.
Stoermer's quote is brutal. Demanding explanations from authority that doesn't recognize your legitimacy is ritual, not opposition. He lists all the tools they had: denying unanimous consent, disrupting quorum, filing impeachment articles, and they just weren't used.
And he draws a parallel to the Vichy regime. We should probably clarify that for listeners.
It doesn't mean they were collaborating. It means they maintained the forms of opposition press releases, speeches, while failing to use their actual power. They keep up the facade of a functioning democracy, which just absorbs the energy of real resistance and lets the abuse continue.
A powerful critique.
Okay.
But let's be balanced. We have to address the counter-arguments. Not everyone sees this as the Poland moment.
Sure. The first one is the just another intervention view. That we've seen this before. Panama in '89, Iraq in '03. Venezuela is just a cruder version of the same thing.
And the rebuttal to that.
The rebuttal always comes back to the language. Previous interventions may have violated the UN Charter in action, but they paid lip service to the rules. This operation explicitly discarded the rules with words like reimbursement and run the country. It's the qualitative break.
Okay, then there's the chaos not strategy view, that all the contradictory messaging means it's just improvisation, not some grand design.
But that confuses the messaging with the execution. The sources point out the sheer coordination required, the replica compound, the 150-plus aircraft.
Yeah.
You don't do that by accident. The operation was planned, the communication was chaotic, which is a feature.
Right, for distraction. And finally, the institutional resilience view, that courts, civil servants, they might still hold the line.
And that's the hope. It's a fair point. But the sources also note potential fractures on the right. Dissent from figures like Tucker Carlson, Thomas Massie, Rand Paul, not because they oppose the administration, but because they oppose unconstitutional foreign wars. That could be a real source of resistance.
Which brings us to historian Heather Cox Richardson's critical 4-month timeline.
Yeah, her projection is that the window here is relatively short. She argues the speed of consolidation is key. Her assessment is stark. By May, we're going to have an answer. Either they are going to grab control and turn the United States into a dictatorship, or the American people are going to take our system back.
So if this Poland moment hypothesis is right, what are the indicators we should be watching for? What proves consolidation is working?
You'd see explicit oil contracts going to specific cronies. You'd see more military actions against Colombia or Cuba. You'd see a prolonged U.S. administration in Venezuela, not a transition. And you'd see NATO start to fracture as allies realize the U.S. rulebook is just gone.
And on the other side, what would a successful backlash look like?
You'd need to see Republican defections, more than just the usual few. A real Venezuelan insurgency that makes the occupation costly. International economic sanctions, especially from Europe. And a big domestic polling shift against the operation. As the source says, the future is not written, but we should be paying very close attention to what gets written next.
So what does this all mean for you? We asked if Venezuela is the end of the post-1945 order. The language of plunder, the domestic context of institutional capture, this new sphere of influence model, it's very hard to dismiss as just another intervention. They told us what they're doing, they're still telling us.
The rules of that order were designed to stop exactly this. To stop great powers from just taking things. When the global enforcer of those rules throws the rule book away, it sends a message to every other powerful nation. It's now permissible.
And that's the final thought we want to leave you with. If the end of this order means great powers can just seize resources, the question isn't just about what's next in Latin America. The question is, what happens when the U.S. sets its sights on an ally's resource or territory? Where does the world draw the line now that the primary rule maker has become the primary rule breaker? Are we watching the end of an era? Thank you for diving deep with us.